Good day, and welcome to another edition of One-on-One with Swope Health. I am your host, Eric Wesson. Thanks so much for joining us today. We have a great show planned for you. Joining us today is my good friend and financial advisor, H David Whalen. Dave, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So people know you and they see you and hear you. So tell us about Dave.
So I'm from Kansas City, Missouri, was born and raised here in Kansas City. My father had a transportation business for 52 years, taxi cabs and limousines and buses, school buses. So I kind of grew up in that business. My dad was always an entrepreneur, and I think I've always had that spirit, entrepreneurial and community spirit with me. And so for the most part, went to school here, went to college at Link University, went to engineering school in Michigan, and that pretty much is my education background, various corporate jobs, my own business, took over my father's business when he got older. But I've been pretty much a Kansas City guy, love it here, lived other places, but I've always come back to Kansas City.
So your work history, I think when I first met you, you were transitioning out of a bank. I think it was Central Bank, wasn't
Central
it?
Bank of Kansas City.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that probably a lot of people know you from there. You did a lot of business loans and was very active in the community. So what made you get into financial issues?
You know what? The bank, I was lucky enough that the president of the bank, I was given an event. Mm-hmm. And I always like to give events around money and books. And I brought an author in called Sister CEO, a young lady named Miss Brazard out of California. Central Bank was one of the sponsors. That Saturday at the Gym Theater, I was expecting maybe 50 or 60 people. It wound up a couple of hundred people came to that event. And the bank president, Bill Dana, was so impressed with that. He asked me, could I be a consultant for him? A lot of times when you do business with people, they'll ask you, can you do this or do that? And so I started off being a consultant, but they paid me so much money, they said, well, why don't you just come work for us? And so at the time, I made the decision to go work at a bank. And I'm so glad that I did, because that's where I cut my teeth on money, understanding money, how it flows, how it comes in, what people do with it, how they generate it, how they save it. So that's how I got started, at the 8 years at Central Bank of Kansas City. But the key was, though I worked at a bank, mm-hmm. I needed financial advice myself. So the person that became my business partner for 10 years, Raina Fields, I was referred to her. I went to see her, and she actually helped me and my family so much. I said, I like this business. And so the relationship business of helping people with their money, that is how I got started in the financial advice business.
So what we focus on this podcast is health. So financial health has to be a part of that as well. So when you look at the landscape of our financial health in the urban core, are we on life support or are we doing okay?
Well, I would say I have many friends in the mental health field, and mm-hmm. and my sweetheart is a counselor, licensed professional counselor. And believe it or not, a lot of people that are coming to see her are stressed out about money. Mm-hmm. So when you start thinking about that, what affects people mentally, one of the number of 2 or 3 issues, money is one of them. So I would say today, I'm an optimist. So I'm optimistic that people will get better, understanding money better. It is one subject that you can get smarter about, is money. Mm-hmm. It's not like brain surgery. You can actually learn more about money, how to manage your money. Having said that, that's why I do a lot of financial education classes. Some are free, some are for a fee. But I do that because financial literacy is the number one issue out there for a lot of people.
And when you talk about the issues, is it just money managing? Is it just careless spending? Is the fact that people just don't have enough money to, I always joke about people say they go paycheck to paycheck. I usually say I go paycheck to Monday.
It's really strange. Everybody goes paycheck to paycheck. I mean, it just depends on when your payday is. For some people, it's once a month. Some is once a week. Some is every other week. But here's the deal, Eric. The key is money management. How do each individual, each family manage their money? I think the biggest deficit that I see is, in order to manage your money, you need certain tools. And one of the biggest tools that everybody needs is a budget. You just simply, people are afraid of that word, but it really, all it is an organized tool for you to understand how much money you have coming in, how much money is going out, and to where it's going. Mm-hmm. How can you manage your money if you don't know where your money is going or how much money is coming in? People have so many issues with, how much money do I need to save to pay 1 month's worth of expenses? Well, in order to know how much expenses you have coming in totally, you need to have an organized list of what all those liabilities are. Mm-hmm. That way you have a dollar amount. So if it's $2,000 a month, $2,500, $3,000, $3,500, whatever that monthly amount is, that's the amount that you work with in terms of us outgoing. And then, of course, you want to save as much money as you can. So saving money, spending money, those are two opposite spectrums of managing your money. You could do both. I never tell people you can't do both. We all spend money. How we spend money, how we save money are two of the key factors in managing your money.
So are we saving money? When we look at the statistics, I'm affiliated with one of the banks here, and one of the issues that we have in the urban core black community, whichever you want to call it, is we don't have banking relationships. We will go to a store, we'll pay them to cash our check, then we'll buy money orders to pay our bills, which is giving them even more money. So you can walk away probably giving $20, $25 of your check, if not more, away when there's situations where all you had to do was open a bank account. But is it easy to open a bank account?
Well, yes and no. It just depends on how much work you want to put in. Everybody needs a banking relationship, I believe, but sometimes it can get too expensive for people depending on your income level. Sometimes it's easier and more autonomous to just go to a convenience store and do your business that way. Mm-hmm. For a lot of people, they don't want banking fees. They don't want to give up all the information, things like that. So there's probably a 20-25% of the population is always unbanked, and people are still trying to figure out how to get banking relationships with people. Bank expenses are not cheap either, mm-hmm. and so people look at that. But I have a client that always tells me, we really have to look at this factor, the high cost of low living. You got to get that, the high cost of low living. Mm-hmm. So what we do is we spend more money with the convenience store, mm-hmm. being overcharged than we do if we just went to a regular bank and had transactions with them. The high cost of low living means really we spend more money on things for convenience sake, but we don't get any more out of it. But we spending more money for that convenience. And everybody keeps looking for the easy way out. There's no easy way out to manage money. Mm-hmm. You got to put some work in. I'm reminded of, I always tell people, like our Chiefs football team, they have a game plan when they go into a game. Mm-hmm. And for the first half, they either are on point with that game plan or they're not. What they do is go into halftime And what they do is make adjustments. And in fact, in life, that's what we always have to keep doing. There's no one set pattern. Depending on your situation, you may have to go in at halftime, make adjustments so that your game plan fits the situation that you're in at the time that you're in it. Mm-hmm. So we gotta be flexible, okay? But we gotta have a plan as well. And that's what most people don't have, is a plan of action, a budget. What can I do? What can I do? I always have 3 questions for people, and they are, do you understand where you are right now? Have you taken an assessment of where you are in your financial situation today? Secondly, where are you trying to go? Mm-hmm. What's your goals? Where are you trying to go? Because you do have to have a game plan. You have to have goals about where you're trying to go. And then thirdly, here's the big question. How are you going to get there? What is the strategy behind going from point A to point B? What is your strategy? And it must be in writing, Eric. We can't keep everything in our head. We got job information, family information. Now you try to keep financial information in your brain. It's impossible, okay? You got to be in writing, and we got to reduce it to writing so that we can make adjustments. But the optimistic part about that I have is more people want to learn. And so that's where I come in at. That's what I like, is people want to come to classes. They want to get educated. They want to read. They want to get the facts. Mm-hmm. And when you have the facts, you can make good decisions. Financial decisions, family decisions, it's all rolled into one. And lastly, let me say this to you. Include the family. The family is the corporation. Mom and dad, or whatever the structure is at the head. But the kids that are coming up, that's really the key. They're going to have to live life too. Mm-hmm. They're going to have to go out and buy houses, buy cars. They need to know financially what it is, how you go about making financial decisions, how do you save money, how do you minimize debt. Kids need to know that same thing. So if you introduce it to them, it won't be a surprise to them when they get to be 18, 20, 21 years old.
Do you think that people spend more money, and I want to go back to the banking situation that we talked about. So they get their check, they cash it, they buy money orders to pay their bills, and then they have cash money in their pocket. Do you think that's a good idea? Because I know in my circumstance, can't speak for anybody else, if I have a lot of cash in my pocket, I waste a lot of money.
You just answered your own question. Of course we do. You can give somebody $100 and put it in their pocket and come back a week later and they won't know what they even did with it. So we're all susceptible to that. But, money management is at all levels. It's not just at the low end level. It's not just at the middle or at the high. What you find with people that have money is they practice fundamentals no matter how many zeros are behind them. So if I'm a low income person, I'm doing the same things. I'm practicing financial fundamentals. What is that? Save, always save or pay yourself first. Always. Mm-hmm. So whether it's $5 or $10 or $15 or $20, a lot of people think they can't save anything. You can always save something. My father used to say, save a quarter out of every dollar you make. Well, that's 25%. Mm-hmm. So if people save 25% of what they make is great. But at least if you save 10% of whatever you make and spend the 90%, fundamentally, whether you make a lot of money or a little money, is still a good philosophy to have.
Mm-hmm. What about one of the things that you told me once before is when your bills come in, open them and read them?
Yeah, you have a lot of people. It's a strange thing in my business when I talk with people. I'll ask them, what is the interest rate on your credit card? Do you know they don't know? Mm-hmm. I said, well, what's the balance on your credit card? I don't know. But they do know the monthly payment. But they don't realize that the interest rate is directly related to the balance. So whatever your balance is and then the interest rate, that's how you get to your monthly payment. Mm-hmm. But those 3 items is what people need to know. Now, how do you know it? You got to open the envelopes. When envelopes come to your house, open them up and do more than a cursory review. What most people do is look at the bottom of the list and bottom of the sheet and say, oh, this is about the same amount that I paid last month.
And when is it due?
Yeah, and when's it due? But you really need to go and say, okay, I made a payment. How much of that payment went to interest and how much went to principal?
Right.
Because what they always tell me is, I make payments, but it doesn't seem to go down any.
Right.
Well, that's because you got to look and see how much of it is going to interest and principal. Because the interest part is just paying them back. The principal is paying down the debt. Mm-hmm. So you may need to pay a little bit more, to be able to cover the interest that you just paid. So there are fundamentals. That's why financial literacy is so important, Eric, because there are little things that if we do well, we will be ahead of the curve.
Can you ask the credit card company to lower your interest rate? I know, the interest rate was going up a point here, a half a point, and so it's probably accumulated to quite a bit for most people. Can you call a credit card company and ask them, hey, can you lower my interest rate?
Yes, you can always ask. I always tell people asking a question doesn't cause anything. It doesn't mean that the people are going to respond affirmatively to you. Mm-hmm. They could say, well, the interest rate is going up because the Federal Reserve is raising the bank interest rate, prime rates, and so credit cards are normally adjustable rated instruments. So they go up because the prime rate goes up. So they could lower it and they could not lower it. They could say, hey, that's just the way it is. Look at the terms of your contract. When you took the credit card out, it says that we can adjust the rate at any time. It doesn't mean that we're going to lower it just because it's been going up. But you can always ask. You could be a good customer. But the question is, everybody else is doing the same thing. There's no credit card entity, no matter which one it is, that's really going to automatically lower your rate. Some will do it, some will not.
So when you look at your credit card bill and you see that, how much of the available balance do you want to have available on your card? Do you want to keep your card maxed out? Do you want to use 20%? And what's the difference in having that available credit?
Well, the rule of thumb is, you only want to use a third of your capacity of your credit card. And that is because it affects your credit score. Mm-hmm. So normally if you start getting in the 50% range, 60, 70, 80% range, you start getting little dings on your credit score because you're using a lot of the capacity of the credit card itself. That kind of tells people who study credit, that's kind of telling them something, is that do you really have enough access capacity to pay the card off? Because credit cards are really, the wealthy do it this way. They use the credit cards for convenience. Mm-hmm. So they make a purchase, but before the month is out, they pay it off, before the monthly cycle is there. Therefore, they won't be charged any interest. Mm-hmm. Whenever you don't pay off the credit card in full, what happens is it goes to debt. It turns into debt. Now you become a debtor, and you start owing them instead of them doing your convenient purchase for free. So when we talk about credit cards are not income. A lot of people think they're an extension of income. They are based on convenience, not income. Because debt is debt, whether it's from the credit card, car loans, house loans, makes no difference. When it's debt, when it's the big D, that means you're paying somebody. So you want to try to stay away from owing people more money than you could actually pay.
One of the things that drives me crazy, Dave, is people that I know that use their credit card to go buy fast food.
Yes.
And so if they're at their credit card where they can't pay it off at the end of the month like you suggest. So they go in and they buy a hamburger, and it's on the credit card. They're paying interest on a hamburger.
Yes, sir.
Because the interest all comes in with the total amount of money. It just irks me when people do that.
Why?
Because it's two things.
It
I don't
seems
use
frivolous.
my credit. It does.
It is.
It does.
Yeah.
It's like using your credit card to buy gas and not pay it off. So you're paying interest on gas that you've already burned up.
Hey,
you already ate that hamburger.
Hey, clothes and anything else is.
Well, you still have the clothes then.
Well, you have the clothes, but here's the deal, Eric. It's all about managing your money. It's all about. See, the commercials make you believe that the more you use the credit card,
rewards points.
Rewards points.
Yes.
Rewards point. If you start calculating, do you really get rewards points? You can save that amount of money by not
not using
it. So we have this crazy thinking sometimes that we're really making money, and because MBAs at these credit card companies make these commercials that make you think what you need to do is use your credit card all the time. That's not the way you manage money. Really, the way you manage money is to be proactive in your own thinking, in your own goals. I always tell people, don't let people dictate to you how you want to spend money. You are the boss of your money. And as long as you have a plan of action of how you want to spend your money, that's why you need a budget. I can determine how much debt I want to take on, how much debt I don't want to take on, when I want to use my credit card. And you shouldn't be using your credit card. The philosophy is, if you cannot pay it off by the end of the month, then you are overspending. Because you should have enough money to pay off your credit card before 30 days is up. But if you don't, that means you don't have enough money. You need to go back to the drawing board. That's why when I talk about a budget, that's what a budget is all about. It's about managing how much money is coming in, how much money is going out. We got to do that. I know it sounds antiquated. I don't know why people don't understand it. But every company you work for has a budget. Every company operates off a budget. Why wouldn't individuals operate off a budget? Just knowing how much money is coming in and going out. That's how you manage money. So keep spending, we spend money on so much stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes sense. Some people don't even look. This thing about buy now, pay later had 56% of the spending over the last Christmas holiday was buy now, pay later transactions, which simply means people bought something and put it off. They're paying for it January, February, March, and April of this year because it's installment loans. It's just going forward. So, I don't know why we do it. To me, it's mind over your money. If you can understand that money is just a tool, but if you got a bigger purpose for that money, you're managing it. You ought to be able to control how my money goes out, how I spend it.
But they raise the interest rates to get people to slow down their spending.
Yes.
But it seems like people are spending more money now, and to me it really never has made sense, because if I'm using my credit card to buy things, that means I don't have enough cash to pay for it.
Yes.
And in exchange for that, you raise my credit card bill because the interest rate changed. So if I didn't have money to pay for it then, what makes you think I got money to pay for it now?
Yeah, but that's really funny. It doesn't keep people slowing them down for spending.
Doesn't slow them down at all.
At all. All the shopping malls that I went through during the Christmas holiday,
Packed.
The parking lot was full. Okay. But it gets back to one of the things you.
But if people aren't spending money, doesn't that create a problem as well?
It does. 70% of our economy is based on consumer spending, so it's a dilemma. But the dilemma has always existed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you got half the country out there that still manages their money properly, have a plan, have a budget. And then you got half the country that doesn't do it. So it's kind of just split almost evenly right down the middle. Those people who feel good about the economy, trust me, they're the ones that are not in a whole lot of debt. And even though you get paid payday to payday, they're not in a whole lot of debt. The more debt you take on, the more stress you take on as well. Mm-hmm. And that's what keeps people working. Because if I got a lot of debt, I got to keep making money to pay that debt off.
Right.
So we got to save money. The most money that we've ever saved in the United States was during COVID. I think the spending rate shot up to about 30 or 40%. And that was because we didn't have no place to go. So we stayed at home. We started spending money on our houses and home improvements and on things that were, autonomous to the house. But, it's something that you got to get a hold of, man. It's like a fever to me. You got to break the fever by understanding how to manage money. And once you do that, once the light bulb goes on how to save money, how to lower your debt, once that starts happening, your whole philosophy changes. How you look at money. Relationship to money, by the way, that's what the therapists are trying to figure out. People don't have a good relationship to their money. Mm-hmm. They are scared of it. There's nothing to be scared of. If you give your money instructions, mm-hmm. as I always say, it'll do what you tell it to do. But if you don't give it any instructions, it does what it wants to do. So people have money lying around that's not working. People are spending too much money. People are relying on too much credit, and they're not saving more money. Saving money is the power. Staying out of debt is the power. You feel so much better about yourself and about your family and about your future if you have that under control.
And one of the things that you mentioned, I think, is called afterpay, where you
buy now, pay later.
Buy now, pay later.
Mm-hmm.
And so the interesting thing about that, and most people don't really realize, is they go into your bank account and they take money like based upon your agreement with them. Well, what's if an emergency happens and then the money's not there? What happens?
They get dinged. They get a $35 charge from the bank for being overdrafted. And you just make a great point in terms of, I don't let that many people into my account. I don't know. No. I know people that let all their utilities, they have all these different entities that have access to their main bank account. And I'm just old school, Eric. I still write checks. I don't let people into my bank account. It may be two, the mortgage, and it used to be the car note, but I don't even do that now. Car is paid off. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just a huge liability to keep people in your bank account. In this digital world, if they make a mistake, then your whole bank account is messed up.
Exactly.
And it happens.
Exactly.
Right? I know it happens because I have clients that call me up and say, this happened or that happened. So no, I'm kind of old school. I go back to the fundamentals. My money is my money and your money is your money. I'll get you your money. I'm going to pay you on time and I'm going to get you your money, and everybody is good. I try not to owe anybody because, I don't know where I got that from. I think I got it from my dad. I just like being self-sufficient, and I don't like owing people. If I do owe you, I'm going to pay you all quick. Bought some furniture from Nebraska Furniture Mart. Oh, they'll give you 18 months, paid them off in 6. Car note, 5 years, paid them off in 27 months. I just don't believe in having a whole lot of debt, okay? I don't believe in it because I've seen what it does to people. I've seen what it does to family. And if something happens to you, your family inherits that debt that you have incurred. So it's a lot of issues around debt that I don't like. It's necessary, but you can manage it as well.
You said it's necessary.
Yeah, you got to have some debt. You got to have large purchases like your home. Yeah,
car,
that
maybe.
yeah, a car that it requires that you're not going to have that much money that you could pay it off or pay it for cash. But some of these people, some of my clients can pay houses for cash, and some can pay certainly for cars for cash. But it required a lot of savings of money to do that. So, it depends on how you look at it. Look, if you don't have a whole lot of debt and you want to go buy a new car, have at it if that's what you want. But if I don't have any other debt other than that car note, you probably are all right.
Mm-hmm.
So, income and debt ratio, always a factor. I've had people to buy houses that have had to pay off a lot of debt so that they can buy a house. So income to debt ratio is really key as well. Eric, I got to get this in. Anybody that's working out here today, please, please, please understand your retirement program is your number one area of savings. Your 401ks, 403bs, 457s, whatever retirement program that your company has, make sure that you take advantage of it, especially if they match. But even if they don't match, you ought to put your money there because it's beneficial tax-wise. Secondly, everybody needs to know their benefits at their workplace. There are things that happen to people that don't know their benefits, what they can take advantage of, what their the possibilities are, short-term, long-term disability, health care, insurance. People need to know what's available to them when they're working because you never know when you may need it. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that is because things happen, like severe medical injury happened with my son. Knowing his workplace benefits, we had no idea what they were. Mm-hmm. And which leads me to understand, leads me to tell folks that having a power of attorney and a healthcare directive are two documents that people ought to have in place, mm-hmm. especially if they have a young person that's 18 or older, unmarried, or just a relative. You have to have those documents in place to access a person's benefits. Even we did not have that for my son. He's a single male, 40 years old, and we had to go put those documents in place before mm-hmm. his workplace would even talk to us.
Right.
And we're his parents. So it's just a cautionary tale that I believe that, if you're working, you need to know it. If you're not working, you need to know your Medicare, Medicaid benefits. There are so many things out there that we need to keep abreast of because the world is changing each and every day. Nothing stays the same. Money policies don't stay the same. Credit card policies don't stay the same. Borrowing money doesn't stay the same. So you got to stay on top of it.
And that is H David Whalen, financial advisor extraordinaire. Dave, thanks so much for joining us and giving us that good information. Give your money instructions.
Yes, sir.
Don't just have it sitting around because if you don't give it instructions, it'll do what it wants to do.
I'm telling you.
Dave, how can people get in touch with you?
You could call my office at 816-373-1068. That's 816-373-1068. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, and thank you for joining us. As always, I have the greatest viewing audience in the world. Till next week, remember, tough times don't last, tough people do. Until next time, peace.